named after the Rus, who I think were Nordics, Old Norse, Nordic speaking people, Norse. I said Norse way too many times then. Languages in the same family tend to have a lexicon which is somewhat similar to one another. In example, the English, German, Dutch and Swedish words for ape are all similar to one another, being ape, affe, up and upper respectively. This is because these are all part of the Germanic language family. Germanic is a part of the wider Indo-European family, with another branch being the Romance languages. This includes Italian, Spanish, Portuguese, and of course, French. You would think that these 4 languages would have a similar relationship to those 4 Germanic languages, but that isn't quite the case. There's somewhat more variety in the lexicons of Romance tongues, and of these 4 major ones, French is by and far seen as the most different of them. This can be seen perfectly when we compare some words of Italian, Spanish and Portuguese, along with their French equivalent. Take the language's words for Mr. In Italian it's signora, Spanish it's signor, and in Portuguese it's senor, while in French it's monsieur, which sounds nothing like those other ones. Likewise, the French word for rabbit is lapin, while it's conillo, conejo, and conho in Italian, Spanish and Portuguese respectively. And I just need to apologise about pronunciation then. I promise you I did check how to pronounce these words, but that was 5 minutes ago. My brain is mush at the moment. I've mentioned in previous videos. Got a newborn in the house at the moment, so we're trying our best, I will say. Definitely not this close to a little mentee bee anytime soon, that's not for sure. So apologies if my pronunciation was bad then. If it really upsets you and the only way you'll find peace in yourself is by leaving a comment saying how awful I am at pronunciation, go do that. If that makes you happy, just go do that. But honestly, these are just 2 very cherry-picked examples. In reality, there are many words that do sound alike in all 4 of these languages, and likewise, words that sound nothing alike in them too. But the general consensus is that French is resoundingly different to the rest of the Romance languages, whether that be through its lexicon or just through the general sounds of the language. Seriously, think about like a stereotypical French gibberish sound, and think how different that is to say a Spanish or Italian gibberish. It's really different, and we're here to figure out why exactly that's the case. And before we continue, I'd like to briefly talk about Patreon and Super Thanks. Patreon is the best way to financially support Name Explain, and donating just $1 a month gets you ad-free videos, a chance to say what names get explained, an exclusive monthly newsletter, and your name at the end of these videos. All of that can be found at patreon.com/nameexplain, which we linked down below. And conversely, if you want to just make a one-time donation, you can leave a Super Thanks directly in the comments section of any of my videos here on YouTube. They help out tremendously too. Thank you. And also, before we continue, it's December, which means it's time to plug stuff for you guys to buy for Christmas or whatever you celebrate. And of course, I have things to plug. Books. I've written 3 books over the last 10 years now. 2 original names books covering various etymologies of words, and of course my newest book, Immigrant Tongues, exploring how languages moved, evolved and defined us. These are all 3 fantastic books and 3 of the things I'm most happy and proud about in life, especially this new one. This new book is fantastic. It's getting great reviews as well on Amazon, so if you're into any of that, I've talked about them so much. Go check them out. Just go read the blurbs. Go read about them on Amazon. There'll be links down below where you can buy them yourself. Great times. Go buy books. Even if not for yourself, go buy them for someone else. If you know anyone in your life who likes languages or whatnot, they would love these books. It's hard to promote them and also show my face because they're just covering my entire face, but I don't know. I'm tired. Go buy a book so I can keep my baby in nappies. Drop them there. Thank you. Anyway, to really understand how French ended up so far removed from its siblings, we have to understand where these languages came from in the first place, with the answer to that, of course, being Latin. This is why they are called the Romance languages, and they are all descendant of the language of the Romans. Thanks to the huge expansion the Roman Empire went through during its time as Europe's dominant power, it meant that Latin found itself being spoken all across the continent. Of course, the areas it found itself in had languages being spoken in them already. The land we now equate with France was ruled over by the Gauls, a Celtic people who spoke a Celtic language called Gaulish. It was here that this Celtic tongue and Latin interacted with one another, and when Western Rome eventually fell, as there was no authority to maintain Latin in the land anymore, it led to a new kind of Latin emerging here, a language known as Vulgar Latin. Vulgar Latin wasn't a singular language. Basically, any kind of Latin that wasn't spoken in the proper, correct way was dubbed Vulgar Latin. This meant that Vulgar Latins emerged all across the empire and its remains after it had fallen. In fact, all of the modern Romance languages are seen as children of Vulgar Latins. So, what made the Vulgar Latin which became French so special? Well, the Vulgar Latin that became French wasn't just a hybrid of Latin and that Celtic Gaulish language either. There was a third player in this linguistic love triangle. Ooh, linguistic love triangle, that's a bit weird. Why did I write that? I don't know, my brain's mush right now. I think I've already said my brain's mush. That's how much mush my brain is right now, that I can't even think of a second funny way to say my brain is mush. It's just... In the 3rd century AD, parts of what we called Gaul were invaded by another tribe, a tribe called the Franks. It's these guys who eventually led their name to the language, the people, and the nation we know as France today. And they were actually a Germanic tribe, meaning their tongue of Frankish was a Germanic language too. Yeah, this means the modern Romance language of French is named after a Germanic speaking people. I think that's really neat, and I'm not entirely sure if there's any other cases of a language being named after a group of people who spoke a language from a different branch of that language, if that makes sense. I think Russian might be an example of this. That language and the people of Russians were named after the Rus, who I think were Nordics, Old Norse, Nordic speaking people, Norse. I said Norse way too many times then. I think that's the case. I have to go double check that at some point, or someone go tell me down in the comments below. This means the Vulgar Latin which would go on to become French was not just a cross between Latin and Gaulish, but also Frankish too. That means it's a hybrid of a Romance language, a Celtic language, and a Germanic language. And this is the key reason as to why French is so gosh darn different to the other Romance languages. This three-way tango only really happened in a major way in the region we now call France. The Vulgar Latin which became Spanish, in example, heavily mixed with Celtic tongues which thrived in the land prior to Roman rule, but never got too much Germanic influence. Likewise, the Latin spoken in Italy itself received a huge Germanic influence when Germanic tribes like the Visigoths and the Lombards took over the peninsula after the fall of Western Rome. But they didn't receive much Celtic influence. Only French received a heavy dose of both Germanic and Celtic tongues. And from here, the language we know today was on a roll. By the 8th century, it emerged as a tongue called Gallo-Romance. By the 13th century, this formed into Old French. Middle French emerged between the 14th and 15th century, and by the 16th century, the language was in the earliest form of Modern French. And in every step of this journey, it held onto its roots that three-way mixture of Latin, Gaulish and Frankish, resulting in the very unique tongue we have today, which is very different from its Romance siblings. You know, I've actually always had this long-standing belief that French is a really weird language, and I'm thankful to finally understand why that's the case. Anyway, please go suggest a topic down below we could cover in next Monday's Name Explain video. It could be about literally anything, and the topic can be as niche or broad as you like. I will then choose 3 of those topics and place them in a poll for my patrons to vote on. Then the winner from that poll will be the topic covered in next Monday's Name Explain video. You can vote in that poll, as well as enjoy many other great benefits by visiting patreon.com/Name Explain, which we linked down below, and by donating just $1 a month. Thank you. Anyway, that's more than enough for myself. I think you've gathered from this video that I'm quite tired right now. So yeah, we're going to end things there. But don't forget to go follow me on Instagram, where I'm NameExplainYT, and don't forget to join the Facebook page, Friends of Name Explain, where you can chat with myself and many other name nerds. Oh, and before I go, get them off the floor. Books. Go buy a book. They'll be linked down below. Buy it for yourself. Buy it for someone you like. Buy it for someone you hate if you really want to annoy them. Yeah, buy it for someone you hate. Oh, I'll get them riled up. Oh, how dare you send me a book about language? Although I look like a big language nerd. Don't know, they might be offended by that. Okay, all. I'm going now. I'm going to go sleep. Take care. We're here. Content. Yay. Okay, let's film this before the baby starts crying again. Yeah, we need to pronounce. There we go. There's my actual voice. Should we begin? Tend to have a lexicon. Well, it's Colirio in... Oh my god. I did check the pronunciation of that, but my brain's emotion right now. I just had to disappear for a second then because I forgot. I'm plugging books because it's Christmas. Yay! And of course, before we also... France was ruled over by the Gauls, a Celtic speaker? Vulgar Latin wasn't a singular. It's so gosh darn different to the other Celtic languages. Fiddlesticks. Why have I written Celtic languages at the end there? Should have been Romance language. I'm like Ron Burgundy. Anything on the teleprompter, I will f***ing read. Okay, this is going to be great for outtakes. This three-way tango only really happened in a major way in the region we now. Ooh. And from here, the language you noted. It's good to bring the chaos sometimes. Otherwise, I just come off as this like generic talking person. Show a bit of personality like that. Be a bit silly, be a bit honest about life. Resonates with people. Bye.